Hello English readers, and welcome to Lidy's Book Club live read along. I'm Lydie Bureau and I'm an English teacher in France. I'm also the founder of Lidy's Book Club, in which I host live readings of adaptations of classics of English literature and contemporary novels. And once a week, I meet the members of the book club on a live workshop via Zoom to discuss the chapters of the book that we're currently reading over the months. Because each month we are reading a different novel or adaptation of a novel. In this book club, I also tend to prioritize books that are written by women. And this month we are reading the contemporary novel Daisy Jones and the Six by Taylor Jenkins Reid. It is aimed at people having a C1 or an advanced level in English. So if you like rock bands, the 70s in America, then you might like this band. There is also an adaptation on Amazon Prime Video. There is a TV series about this novel. So you may have heard of it, or you may have watched it already. And this is an adaptation of this book. And we are currently reading this book. And if you'd like to know more about Taylor Jenkins Reid's work and her novel, Daisy Jones and the Six, I invite you to listen to the podcast episode 22, an introduction to Taylor Jenkins Reid and Daisy Jones and the Six, available on this YouTube channel and also on my Spotify podcast called Read in English. And over this next 3 weeks, I'm hosting 11 live reading sessions on Instagram. So far, we've done 7 of them, and today it's session 8. So if you want to rewatch or watch those previous live sessions, then you can find them on this channel and also on Spotify on the podcast Read in English. If you prefer to use Spotify when you read the novel, when you listen to audio, I quite like the way we can have a very easy listening sessions on Spotify, and how user-friendly the app is to listen to audios. So I encourage you, if you're in a car, to use it. It's very well, personally, I rather listen via Spotify than using YouTube. And in addition to these 11 live reading sessions, I'm hosting 3 live workshops on Daisy Jones and the Six in order to discuss the chapters and also for you to practice your English and share your thoughts on the characters and on the plot. I'm hosting those live sessions on 3 Saturdays. And to have access to these workshops, you have to become a member of the book club. And for that, you just follow the link under this video. Also, I'm excited to announce that you can now purchase the 3-part live workshop of the adaptation of the novel White Teeth by Zadie Smith here. So this is an adaptation for B2 level. So it is upper intermediate level in English. So you can now purchase the 3-part live workshop on my website. You just click on the link below this video, and you can just purchase those sessions on my website, and you will, when you purchase it, you'll create your login, and this way you have a private access to the videos and just listen to the videos at your own pace and whenever you want. So no pressure on timing or anything. And this way you have an opportunity to see how the book club works, and also how I run the sessions as well. And also you might learn a couple of things about the novel as well, as much as I learn as well as I host those live readings, and when I research about the books, I'm learning as much as you do as well. So it's very enriching experience, and I love it. So today, this is a live reading session 8, and we're going to read pages 155 to 204. So contrary to what I had planned and what I had announced on my social media, we are not going to read the whole section of Aurora, because otherwise we will spend 3 or 4 hours reading, and it's going to be a bit too long, a little bit too long session for us today or this evening. So that's the reason why I decided to change the number of pages, and to adapt more exactly adapt this session. So we will read the first part of Aurora today in this 8th session. Right, so before I start reading, I'm going to I'm going to do a quick recap on the chapter that we had read on Wednesday. Yeah, because our last session was Wednesday, and we did already a long session. So I'm not going to spend too much time on doing the recap of session 8. So the section of the numbers tour, it's called the numbers tour. And it was started page 99. Yes, 99, the numbers tour. So here is a quick recap. So in this chapter, we talked about so the 6 is recording their album, and there is this song called Honeycomb, and the producer Teddy Rice is suggesting that this song should be sang as a duet. But Billy is not really up for it, and this song to him means a lot because it's about a promise that he made to Camilla to offer the life that she desires, and for both of them, but for her more specifically, especially after everything that he put her through, all the cheating and all the drugs and stuff. And the bad behavior that he had with her. So it's a pledge to her. And Daisy comes in, and she reinterpreted the song not as a sure thing that's going to happen, but more as a question. She kind of questioning whether this will happen, if this future will really happen, and brings a little bit of uncertainty in this future that Billy had planned for him and Camilla. Well, the song is a hit, and it really stands out from the rest of the album. And they start a world tour. So the band, the Six, is starting their world tour, and Daisy is going to be their opening act. So they're going to go on tour together. And Daisy is very hyped and very excited about it. The band will start when they are on tour in America. The band will play the songs, the Honeycomb, without Daisy, and she's not going to be very pleased about it, as one might understand. And at some point, when they are playing in LA, she attends the concert where they're playing. And they're playing in this venue called, was it the Whiskey or whatever? And this place in LA, and she is in the audience, and obviously the band see her and Billy as well, and she's in the crowd, and then Billy realizes that he has to call her on stage and ask her to come on stage to sing the song with him. Feels the pressure to ask her to come on stage, and they start singing together in one mic, and magic happens. They had never rehearsed together. They had never played. They had never sang the song together. So when they recorded the song, they recorded independently, and this is what that's what's it is implied in the when you read people, so what you read in the novel and what people say about this event, this moment of their career. So they go on tour, and they are doing a very important show in Glasgow. There is this Rolling Stones critic who is in the audience, and then Daisy start having an argument with her manager, Hank, and she decides that she doesn't want him to manage her anymore. They start having a fight, and Daisy doesn't have a band anymore, because Hank, she fired Hank, then to avenge him, to have his revenge, then is not happy about being fired. So he is going to take the band, the musicians, Daisy's musicians, with him as he goes, and Daisy finds herself on her own. And luckily, Eddie is going to be very kind and say, okay, I can join you on stage. They do a couple songs, and but nothing amazing. And Daisy feels the need that the crowd needs something more, and she wasn't satisfied with the performance, obviously, without a real band behind her. So she decides to play the song called When You Fly Low, and she starts singing a cappella. And when she's about to leave the stage, Billy comes in and he suggests to sing Honeycomb together, just the two of them. And he takes Eddie's guitar, and Eddie is going to be so angry, is going to be fuming about this, because he found it very insulting from Billy to take his guitar while he was on stage. So he found himself without nothing to do on stage, and ridiculous. And that Eddie didn't like it. And what he didn't, and the most importantly, he didn't like the fact that also Billy doesn't realize how unaware he is about the way he's acting around people and how he is treating people in the band. So Eddie is going to be very angry. Yeah, very angry. He's going about that. And at the end of the set, he's going to smash his guitar and be super upset about the whole situation. And after that, the band, well, the article, Rolling Stone's article comes out, and it's titled "The Six That Should Be Seven." And with this title, Billy gets quite shocked and surprised about the fact that the band should, well, the critic implies that the band should include Daisy in with them in it, and that really unsettles Billy about yeah, this potential addition to the group, and specifically Daisy. So this idea of asking Daisy to join the band starts to get into the band's head, well, the members of the band's head, and gets into Rod, the manager, and also Teddy, the producer, get quite favorable to this idea. And it's just a question of Billy accepting or agreeing for Daisy to be part of the band, because the rest of the band is more or less happy, although they don't really ask the members of the band, especially Eddie and Pete are often left out of conversations in terms of new decisions about the band. And that really pisses off Eddie. And he starts to be very angry about, really annoyed about this, about the way decisions are made in the band. So Daisy joins the band. She is super excited about this news, and she's still very into drugs, and, well, she keeps with her routine of alcohol and drugs, and she actually breaks through her parents' house. She's even her parents didn't know it was her, so they call the police. She's arrested and everything. Well, Daisy's personal life is quite a big contrast to what she projects on stage, where she is very in control and really the most at ease. But when she steps out of the stage, and when about dealing with daily life stuff, then feels like she doesn't know how to manage anymore, how to deal with herself, with her demons, with her solitude as well, enormous loneliness. And Simone, her best friend, is very worried about her. And after a bit of a downtime, Camilla gives birth to twin girls, and Billy starts writing again, and at some point they're ready to record again, and Daisy is officially part of the band for this album. It's a very unsettled, very temporary situation. They don't know for how long Daisy is going to be in the band. Is it permanent or not? Nothing is really sure. So in terms of labeling or billing, they decide to rename the band as Daisy Jones and the Six, in case at some point Daisy leaves the band and goes off and do her own thing as before. So that's about it for this long chapter that we read on Wednesday. So they are in the process of making this album called Aurora. And this is the chapter that we are reading today. Okay, let's go. So here the chapter covers 1977 to 1978. Okay. In August 1977, the 7 members of the band entered Wally Heider's Studio 3 to begin the process of recording their 3rd album, Graham. Karen and I left her place that morning, heading over to Heider. I said to her just as we walked out of the door, "Can we just drive over together?" She said she didn't want people thinking we were sleeping together. I said, "But we are sleeping together." She still made us take 2 cars. We also have here the relationship, the blooming relationship of Graham and Karen. And it seems like Karen is not really, doesn't feel quite secure with, she feels quite insecure about this relationship, and she cares a lot about what people think of it, especially she's worried about how she will be considered in the band, how it will impact her as well, as a woman, obviously. Okay, Karen. You know how easy it is to screw up your entire life by sleeping with somebody in your own band? Eddie. And I drove over that morning. By that point, I think he and I were the only 2 still staying at the place in Topanga Canyon. Before he'd gotten back from the East Coast, I had the place all to myself. I said to Pete on the way there, I said, "This should be interesting." And he told me to not take it so seriously. He said, "It's just rock and roll. None of this really matters." Daisy. When we all met at the studio that first day, I brought this basket of cakes that someone had sent over to my place at the Marmont, and my notebook full of songs. I was ready. Eddie. Daisy showed up in a thin tank top and these tiny cut-off shorts. barely covering anything. Daisy. I run hot and I always have. I'm not going to sit around sweating my ass off just so men can feel more comfortable. It's not my responsibility to not turn them on. It's their responsibility to not be an asshole. Billy. I had written about 10 or 12 songs so far, all of them in great shape, but I knew I couldn't go in there and tell them that I had written the album already, like I did with the other 2 albums. I couldn't say that. So now we see how self-conscious he is comparing to the first album. Graham. It was kind of funny, to be honest, watching Billy put on this act like he gave a shit what anyone else wanted on the album. God bless him. You could see the effort he was putting in, talking all slow, thinking about his words. Daisy. We were sitting around and I handed over my notebook. I said, I've got a lot of good stuff in here to start from. I thought maybe everyone could read it all and we could discuss it from there. Billy. Here I am holding back my 12 great songs so that no one thinks I'm trying to control things. And Daisy's just walking into a band she's brand new to, expecting everyone to read a whole journal of ideas. Daisy. He didn't even flip through it. Billy. If Daisy and I were going to write an album together, it needed to be just the 2 of us. You can't give 7 people a say in the words. Nobody had to take charge and control the process. So I said, look, I wrote this song, Aurora. It's the one I really believe in. It's the one I really believe in out of everything. Of everything I'm working on for this album. The rest is up to us all. Daisy and I will write some songs and everyone will take a crack at the arrangements. And once we've got a slate of great songs that we all love, we'll narrow it down to the best of the best. Karen. Maybe it's revisionist history, but I think when Billy played Aurora, it felt clear that we could build an album around it. Graham. We were all on board with Aura as a great place to start. It was a great freaking song. After that, Daisy started talking about ideas for the album as a whole. Warren. I wanted no part in writing. That morning felt like a waste of my time. Everyone sitting around talking about shit I don't care about. I finally just said, don't you all think that Daisy and Billy should go write the songs and come to us when they have them? Karen. Teddy was really decisive about it. He handed Billy the keys of his guest house and said, you two pop on over to my place, set up in my guest house and get to writing. Everyone else is going to get to work on this new one. Eddie. Billy didn't want us composing anything for that song without him, but he also didn't want Daisy writing songs without him. So he had to choose whether he went with Daisy and got started writing or stayed with us and worked on the arrangement for his new song. And he chose Daisy. Billy. I got to Daisy's pool house, to Teddy's, sorry. Billy. I got to Teddy's pool house first and I got settled. Made myself a cup of tea, sat down, looked through my notes, trying to decide what to show Daisy. Daisy. By the time I opened the door, Billy's already there. He's got his notebook out to show me. Not so much as hello, just here, read my stuff. Billy. I told her the truth. I said, I've got a lot of the album written already. Do you want to take a look at it and see where we can make adjustments together? See if maybe there are some gaps that we can fill in with some new stuff or stuff you've written already? Daisy. I shouldn't have been surprised. It was never going to be easy with him, was it? I think I grabbed one of the bottles of wine I saw on Teddy's counter and I opened it and flopped myself down on the sofa and just started drinking it. I said, B, that's great that you've written a bunch of songs already. I have to, but we're writing this album together. Billy, the woman is drinking warm white wine before it's even noon and trying to lecture me on how things should go. She hadn't even read my songs yet. I handed my work over to her and I said, read it first before you go telling me I should throw it away. Daisy. I said, ditto then, and I shoved my notebook in his face. I could tell he didn't want to read it. But he knew he had to. Billy. I read her stuff and it wasn't bad, but I thought it wasn't. Oh, sorry, but I thought it wasn't the six. She used so many biblical metaphors. So when she asked me what I thought, I told her, I said, we would start with my stuff as the backbone and we can refine it together. Daisy was sitting on the sofa with her feet on the coffee table, which irked me. And then she said, I'm not singing an entire album about your wife, Billy. She put the fit in the plate, as we say. Yeah, both fits in the plate. Okay, really, Daisy. I really liked Camilla, but Signora was about her, Honeycomb was about her, Aura was about her. It was boring. Billy, I said, you're writing the same song too. We both know every song in this book is about the same thing. Well, that got her upset. She put her hands on her hips and said, what is that supposed to mean? And I said, every single one of these songs is about the pills in your pockets. Ooh, Daisy. Billy got this smug look on his face. Billy had this face that he would make when he thought he was smarter than everyone in the room. I swear I have nightmares still about that goddamn face. I said to him, you just think everybody is writing about dope because you don't have any. And he said, you just go ahead and keep popping pills and writing songs about it. See where that gets you. I tossed his pages at him. I said, sorry, we all can't be sober and writing songs as interesting as wallpaper paste. Or here's the song. Oh, here is the song about how much I love my wife. And then another, and another. And he tried to tell me I was wrong, but I said, this whole pack of songs is about Camilla. You can't keep writing apology songs to your wife and making the band play them. Billy, so out of line. Daisy, I said, good for you for finding some other shit to be addicted to, but it's not my problem and it's not the band's problem and nobody wants to listen to it. You could see it on his face that he knew I was right. Billy, she thought she was brilliant because she realized that I'd replaced my addiction. Like I didn't already know that I clung to my love for my family to keep me sober. That just made me even more mad, that she thought she knew more about me than me. I said, you want to know your problem? You think you're a poet, but other than talking about getting high, you don't have anything to say. Daisy, Billy is one of those people who has a sharp tongue. He can build you up and he can take you down too. Billy. She said, I don't need this shit. And she left. Daisy. I started heading out to my car, getting more rip-roaring angry with every step I took. I had a cherry red Benz back then. I loved that car until I crashed it by accident by leaving it in neutral on a hill. Anyway, that day with Billy, I was headed out to that Benz and I had my keys in my hand and I'm ready to get as far away from him as I can. And I realized that if I live, Billy would just write the album himself. And I turned right back around and I said, "Oh no, you don't hassle. You don't hassle, Billy." I was really surprised that she came back. Daisy. I went right into the pool house and I sat down on the couch and I said, "I'm not giving up my chance to write a great album just because of you. So here's how it's going to go. You hate my stuff. I hate your stuff. So we'll crap it. All, start from nothing." Billy said, "I'm not letting go of Aura. It's going on the album." I said, "Fine." And then I picked up one of these songs lying around where I'd thrown them and I shook it at him and I said, "But this shit isn't." Billy. I think that was the first time I realized that there's no one more passionate about the work than Daisy. Daisy cared more than anybody. She was ready to put her whole soul into it. She, regardless of how difficult I tried to make it. And I kept thinking about Teddy telling me she was how we were going to sell out stadiums. So I put out my hand and I said, "Fine." And we shook on it. I guess they shook hands on it. Okay. Billy. Daisy. Simone used to say that drugs make a person look old, but when I was shaking Billy's hand, his eyes were already wrinkling at the corners. His skin was freckled. He looked withered, and he couldn't have been more than 29 or 30. I thought, it's not drugs that make you old. It's sobering up. Billy. It wasn't very easy thinking about writing together when we'd said what we'd said to each other. Daisy. I told Billy I wanted to get lunch before we did much of anything. I wasn't going to deal with the headache of trying to write with him before I had a burger. I told him I'll drive us to the apple pan. Billy. I grabbed her keys just as she was about to get in her car, and I told her I wasn't letting her drive anywhere. She was half in the bag already. Half in the bag, probably an expression, American expression, to say that she was already drunk or high. Daisy, I grabbed my keys back and told him if he wanted to drive, we could take his car. Billy, we got into my Firebird and I said, "Let's go to El Carmen. It's closer." And she said, "I'm going to the apple pan. You can go to El Carmen by yourself." I just could not believe she was being so goddamn difficult. Daisy, I used to care when men called me difficult. I really did. And then I stopped. This way is better. Billy, and the way that I turned on the radio, immediately Daisy changed the station. I changed it back. She changed it again. I said, "It's my car, for crying out loud." And she said, "Well, there are my ears." I finally put in an 8-track of The Breeze. I put on their song, Tiny Love. And Daisy started laughing. I said, "What's so funny?" She said, "You like this song. Why wouldn't I put a song I didn't like?" Daisy. I said, "You don't know anything about this song." He said, "What are you talking about?" He knew it was Wyatt Stone that wrote it, obviously, but he didn't know the rest of it. I said, "I dated Wyatt Stone. This is my song." I remembered the song that this guy did not acknowledge that she had helped him writing it. Well, it seems like she wrote the whole song more than just helping him. Billy, I said, "You're Tiny Love?" And Daisy started telling me this story about her and Wyatt and how she came up with those lines about big eyes, big soul, big hearts, no control. But all she got to give is Tiny Love. I loved the chorus of that song. I'd always loved it. Daisy. Billy listened to me the whole way to the restaurant. As he drove, he was listening for what felt like the first time since I met him. Billy, if I had a great line like that and someone else pretended it was theirs, I'd be pretty angry. She made more sense to me after that. And to be honest, it was harder to tell myself she had no talent because she clearly did. It was a real reality check. That voice was whispers in the back of your head. You have been acting like an asshole. Daisy, it made me laugh that to Billy, I needed a reason to want an equal say in the art I created. I said, "Cool, man. Now that you dig it, maybe you can stop being such a dickhead." Billy, Daisy could really give you the grief you deserved. And if you took it in the spirit it was intended, she wasn't so bad. Daisy, we sat down at the counter and I ordered for both of us and then put the menu away. I just wanted to put Billy in his place a little bit. I wanted him to have to deal with me being in charge. But of course, he couldn't let it go. He said, I was going to order the hickory burger anyway. I think I've rolled my eyes about 5,000 more times in my life just on account of Billy June. Billy. After we both ordered, I decided to try a little game. I said, how about I ask you a question? You ask me a question. No one can dodge the answers. Daisy. I told him I was an open book. Billy. I said, how many pills do you take a day? She looked round and fiddled with her straw. And then she turned to me and said, no one can dodge the answer. And I said, we have to be able to tell the truth to each other, to really be honest about ourselves. Otherwise, how can we ever write anything? Daisy, he was open to writing with me. That's what I took from that. Billy, I asked the question again. How many pills do you take a day? She looked down and then back up at me, and she said, I don't know. I was skeptical, but she put her hands up. She put her hands up and said, no, really, that's the truth. I don't know. I don't keep track. I said, don't you think that's a problem? She said, it's my turn, isn't it? Daisy. I said, what makes Camilla so great that you can't write anything that isn't about her? He was quiet for a while, for a really long time. I said, come on, now you made me answer. You can't whistle out of it. He said, would you wait a minute? I'm not trying to whistle out of anything. I'm trying to think about my answer. After another minute or two, he said, I don't think I am the person Camilla believes I am, but I want to be that person so bad. And if I just stick with her, if I work every day to be the guy she sees, I've got the best chance at coming close to it. Billy. Daisy looked at me and said, oh, for fuck's sake. And I said, what did I do to make you mad this time? And she said, there's just as much to hate about you as there is to like about you. And that's annoying. Daisy. Then he said, it's my turn. And I said, out with it then. Billy, when are you going to quit pills? That's the second question. Daisy, I said, why are you so obsessed with the goddamn pills? Billy. I told her the truth. I said, my father was a drunk, was never there for Graham and me. I never wanted to be that way. And then the first thing I do, my first act as a father was to get all messed up in all the shit you're messed up in. Even herein too, I'm afraid. And I let my daughter down, even missed her birth. Even missed her birth. It turned out to be exactly what I've always hated. If it wasn't for Camilla, I think I'd still be that way. I think I would have made all my own nightmares come true. That's the kind of guy I am. Daisy. I said, it's like some of us are chasing after our nightmares the way other people chase dreams. He said, that's a song right here. Right there. Billy. It wasn't behind me, my addiction. I kept hoping it would feel like it was, like it didn't need to keep looking over my shoulder all the time. That doesn't really exist, at least not for me. That's a fight you keep fighting. Sometimes are easier than others. Daisy made it harder. It just did. Daisy. I was paying the price for the parts of himself that he didn't like. Billy. She said, if I was a teetotaler, a teetotaler, you'd like me more, huh? And I said, I'd like to be around you more. Yeah, probably. And Daisy said, well, you can just forget that. I don't change for anybody. Daisy. I finished my burger and threw down some money, and I got up to go. Billy said, what are you doing? And I said, we're going back to Diddy's. We're going to write that song about chasing our nightmares. Billy. I grabbed my keys and walked out after her. Daisy. On the way back to Teddy's, Billy was singing me this melody he'd had in his head. We were at the red light, and he was tapping the steering wheel and humming along. Billy. I had a Bo Diddley beat I was thinking of, something I wanted to try. Daisy. He said, can you work with that? I said I could work with anything. So when we got back to the pool house, I started sketching some ideas out, and he did too. After about half an hour, I had stuff to show him, but he said he needed more time. I kept hanging around, waiting for him to be done. Billy. She was pacing around me. She wanted to show me what she was writing. I finally had to say, will you get the fuck out of here? And on account of how rude I'd been to her in the past, I realized I needed to be clear that I just meant it the same way I'd said it to Graham or Karen. You know, I said, please, would you get the fuck out of here? Go get a donut or something. She said, I ate a burger already. That's when I realized Daisy only ate one meal a day. Daisy. I picked the lock to Teddy's house, borrowed his girlfriend Yasmin's bathing suit and a towel, and went for a swim. I was in there long enough to prune, and then I went back in, put the bathing suit in the wash, took a shower, and went back into the pool house, and Billy was still sitting there, writing. Billy. She told me what she did, and I said, that's weird, Daisy, that you borrowed Yasmin's bathing suit. And Daisy just shrugged. She said, would you have rather I skinny dipped? Daisy. I took his pages from him and I gave him mine. Billy. She has a lot of imagery of darkness, running into darkness, chasing darkness. Daisy. When he came to the structure of the verses, his were better than mine. but he didn't have a really fun chorus yet, and I thought that I did. I showed him the part I'd written. I liked the most. I liked the most, and I sang it to him with his melody he'd given me. I could tell on his face he knew it sounded good. Billy. We went back and forth a lot on that song, just hours of talking it out, playing with the melodies and the guitar on the guitar. Daisy. I don't think any of our original lines made it into the final version. Billy. But when we sang it, when we worked out the lyrics and who should sing what, and refined the melody of the vocal and that interplay between those two things, we started singing it together and fine-tuning it. You know what? I'll tell you, it was a great little song. Daisy. Diddy came in the door and he said, "What the hell are you doing? What the hell are you still doing here? It's almost midnight." Billy. I did not realize how late it was. Daisy. Teddy said, "Also, did you break into my house?" Teddy said, "Also, did you break into my house and use Yasmin's bathing suit?" I said, "Yeah." And he said, "I'd love it. I'd love it if you didn't do that again." Billy. I was going to leave when I was going to leave then, but I thought, you know what? Let's show Teddy what we've come up with. So Teddy sat down in the couch and we sat across from him. I was saying, this isn't the final, and we just came up with this and all that. Daisy. I said, "Stop, Billy. It's a good song. No disclaimers." Billy. We played it for Teddy, and when we were done, he said, "This is what you two come up with when you're on the same team?" And we looked at each other, and I said, "Yeah." And he said, "Well then, I'm a genius." He sat there laughing, really proud of himself. Daisy. It was like we all agreed not to discuss that Billy needed Teddy's approval, like a son needs his father's. Billy. I left Teddy's that night and I rushed home because it was late and I was feeling guilty about it. I walked in the door and the kids were asleep and Camilla was sitting in the rocking chair watching TV on low volume, and she looked up at me. I started apologizing and she said, "You're sober, right?" And I said, "Yeah, of course. I was just writing and lost track of time." And that was it. Camilla didn't care that I hadn't called her. She just cared that I hadn't relapsed. That was all. Camilla. That's hard to explain because I really do think it defies reason. But I knew him well enough to know that he could be trusted. And I knew that no matter what mistakes he made, no matter what mistakes I might make too, that we would be fine. I don't know if I would have believed in that type of security before I had it, before I chose to give it to Billy. And by giving it to Billy, I gave it to myself too. But saying to someone, no matter what you do, we're not over. I don't know. Something about that relaxed me. Billy. All those weeks that Daisy and I worked on songs together, I'd work as late as I needed. I'd stay out with Daisy as long as we needed. And every night when I came home, Camilla was in that chair. She'd get up when I got home and I'd sit down. And then she'd sit in my lap and put her head on my chest and say, "How was your day?" I'd tell her the highlights and I'd hear about her day and I'd hear about the girls and I'd rock us back and forth until we went to sleep. One night I picked her up out of the rocking chair and I put her in bed and I said, "You don't always have to wait up for me." She was half asleep, but she said, I want to. I like to. And, you know, no crowd cheering, no magazine cover ever made me feel even remotely as important as Camilla. And I think the same goes for her. I really do. She liked having a man who wrote songs about her and carried her to bed. It's yeah. You can see that's Billy's purpose, to write songs for her, redeem himself this way, and find meaning to his life and to his career. Graham, when Billy was off writing with Daisy, it was the first time that the rest of us could be composing on our own. Karen. Aurora was a great song with a great spine to it, and we all had a lot of fun building it out. Billy tended to want a more Spartan keyboard, but I wanted to get into more atmospheric, lush sounds. So when we started working on Aurora, I came in with those sustained roots and fifth. I kept some of the melody chords broken up a bit to keep it moving, but I was pedaling a lot of the bass notes. Shifted from staccato to legato. And because the keys shifted, that meant Pete shifted the bass a bit. Now it's his bass that is keeping your foot tapping. The rhythm guitar is keeping you going. Eddie. I wanted to do something a little faster, a little more propulsive. I was really into the King's new album. I wanted to move more in that direction. I thought Warren should hit harder in the drums, really using the drum and bass as counter rhythms. But I had this idea of a simple drum beat for the intro. We had it sound really good. Graham, when Billy checked in at the studio, whatever day it was, he said he wanted to hear what we had so far on Aurora. Eddie, we played it to him. We played it for him. I mean, we weren't set up in the studio yet, hadn't recorded anything, but we got in there and played it out for him. Billy, I never would have come up with what they came up with in a million years. I could barely even keep a neutral face as I was listening. I felt odd and wrong and uncomfortable, like putting on someone else's shoes. Every bone in my body was saying, this is not me. This is not right. I need to fix this now. Graham, I could tell he hated it. Karen, oh, he hated it. He definitely hated it. Rod, Teddy took him aside and they went for a drive. Billy, Teddy made me get in his car and we drove to get lunch, or maybe it was dinner. And I was lost in thought, just hearing my own song being ruined over and over in my head. I started talking the minute we sat down, and Teddy put his hand up to stop me. He insisted on ordering first. He ordered basically everything fried on the menu. If it was battered, Teddy would eat it. Once the waitress left, he said, "Okay, go ahead." And I said, "Do you think it sounds good?" And he said, "Yes, I do." I said, "You don't think it should be a bit less congested?" And Teddy said, "They're talented musicians, just like you. Let them show you what you can't see in your own stuff. Let them lay down all the tracks, and then you and I will go in and pull back where we need to and sweeten and all that. If we have to have everybody come in one at a time and overdub, then we do that. We can change the whole song piece by piece if we have to. But as the spine of the song, yes, I think they're doing a great job." I thought about it and I could feel my chest was tight. But I said, all right, I trust you. And he said, that's good, but trust them too. Rod, when Billy came back in, he had very simple notes, all good stuff. Karen, Billy changed an octave, wanted me to jump from 1-5 repetition to 1-4-5, but in general, he was very supportive. Graham, the early take of that song is one we never would have come to. We never would have come to if it had all gone Billy's way. By having us all involved, we were evolving. Billy, I decided with every song on that album to give only the feedback that felt really necessary, because I got back with Teddy when we were mixing it, and that's when I could really refine. Daisy, I went into the studio to hear everybody play Aura for the first time, and I was blown away by it. I was really excited. Billy and I played with the vocals a bit and found great balance for it all. Artie Snyder, the sound engineer. We mic'd everything. We must have messed with the setup a 1,000 times to get it just right. We had Karen and Graham on the side, Pete and Warren on the back. Eddie was toward the front. And then Billy and Daisy were in the ISO booth, but they could still see everybody. I had Teddy in the control room next to me. He kept smoking cigarettes, letting the ash get on my boards. I kept whipping it away, and he just kept dropping it. When everything was perfectly in place, I said, all right, Aurora, take one. Somebody counted off. Daisy, we played it the whole way through, all of us together. We just played it over and over as a band, a real band. I looked at Billy at one point and we smiled at each other. And I thought, this is happening. I was in a band. I was one of them, the 7 of us playing music. Billy, as Daisy and I were singing, I had to do a few takes in a row to really warm up, but Daisy hit it right out of the gate. Daisy was natural. If you're going up against somebody like Daisy, then yeah, that's annoying, but she's on your team. Wow. Powerhouse. I like this word, a powerhouse in English. Artie Snyder. I was still getting a feel for how the album would sound, and my team was still tinkering with the setup. The early takes sounded a little tiny, and that's what I was focused on. When you start off on an album with new people and different sounds in a studio and all that, you really have to get your levels right, your mics right. I was obsessive about that stuff until it was coming through clean on the cans. I could not focus on anything else. But even knowing that about myself, looking back on it, I can't believe I had no idea. We were making a massive hit record, and I had no idea. Daisy, I knew it was going to be huge. I really think, even then, I knew. Intuition. The feminine intuition. Daisy, a few days later, I'm going through my journal back at my place. I think maybe it was a weekend, and I find one of Billy's songs in there, one that he wrote for the album, Midnights. I think maybe at the time it was called Memories. I must have packed it up with my things by mistake when we were back at Teddy's. So I started rereading it. I probably read it 10 times in a row, sitting there. It was pretty sickeningly sweet, all about how Billy has these happy memories with Camilla, but there were a few good lines in there. So I started scribbling on top of it, playing with it. Billy. The next time we met up at Teddy's, Daisy handed me Midnights, written over I'd written it over the summer. It was pretty straightforward when I wrote it, but she handed it back to me, pen marks all over the place, and I could barely read any of the words. I held the page in my hand and I said, "What did you do to my song?" Daisy. I told him it was actually a great song. I said, "Turns out it just needed a little bit of darkness to it." Billy. I said, "I understand what you're saying, but I can't read what you wrote." She got mad and snatched the paper out of my hand. Daisy. I was going to have to read it to him. I started reading the first verse, but then I realized that was done. I said, "Play the song as you wrote it." Billy. I got my guitar and I started playing and singing the words as I originally wrote them. Daisy. I cut him off once I got the gist of it. Billy. She put her hand on the neck of the guitar to shut me up. She said, "I get where you're going. Start from the beginning. Give this a listen." Daisy. I sang him his song back, this time with my changes. Billy. I went from a song about your best memories to a song about what you I can't remember. I had to admit it was more subtle, more complicated, much more open to interpretation. It was very similar to what I had envisioned when I wrote it, but just better than what I got on the page, frankly. Daisy. I didn't change a lot of his song, really. I just added in this element of what you don't remember to highlight what you do remember. And then I restructured it to include a second voice. Billy. By the time she was done, I was really excited about it. Daisy. Billy immediately went into writing mode. He took the paper from me, grabbed a pen, started reordering a little bit. That's how I knew he liked it. By the end, we'd taken this song that Billy had about Camilla, and we made it about so much more than that. Billy. We played it for everybody down at the studio, just her and me and the guitar over in the lounge. Graham. I dug the song. Billy and I started talking about a solo during the bridge. We were on the same page. Eddie. I said to Billy, "This is good. Let me get started on my piece on it." And Billy said, "Well, your part is written already. Just go with the guitar as I played it." I said, "Let me tinker with it." He said, "Nothing to tinker with. Daisy and I have been reworking this one back and forth. I'm telling you, play it like I played it." I said, "I don't want to play it like you played it." He just patted on me on the back and said, "It's cool. Just play it like I played it." Billy, the rhythm guitar was already done. But I said, "All right, man, go ahead and try to see what you can come up with." By the time we recorded it, he'd come back around to exactly what I played for him. Eddie. I changed it up. I didn't have it exactly right. There wasn't only one way to play that song. I changed it up, and it was better. I knew how to play my own riffs. I knew what worked. We were all supposed to be taking our own shots. So I took my own shot. Billy. It is very frustrating when you know how something should be done, but you have to pretend someone else has a good idea. When you know you're just going to end up using your own. But that's the price of doing business with somebody like Eddie Loving. He's got to believe everything is his idea, and he won't do it. And look, it's my fault. I told everybody it was equal opportunity band, and I shouldn't have done that because that is just not a sustainable system. Look at Springsteen. Springsteen knew how to do it, but me, I had to sit there and pretend people like Eddie Loving knew better than me how to play guitar on the songs I wrote on my guitar. Carrot. I didn't see any of the tense stuff between Billy and Eddie on that song. I heard about it later from both of them, but at the time I was preoccupied. Graham. You know what's a good time? Giving your girl a role in the closet at the studio while everybody else is recording. And the two of you have to be so quiet you could hear a pin drop. That was making love, man. It felt like love. It felt like we were the only two people in the entire world who mattered. Me and Karen. It felt like I could show her how much I loved her right there in that tiny space, not saying anything at all. Whoa, that's steamy here. Warren. When we were messing around on that song on Midnights, Daisy came up to me and suggested I hold the drums on the bridge, and that I hold the drums on the bridge. And I thought for a moment, and I said, yeah, that's a great idea. Daisy and I always got along really well in that regard. We were about the only two people who could manage not to have too much ego with each other. I once told her I thought she sang Turn It Off like she was in heat, and she said, I see what you mean. I think I'll pull back on the chorus. Just like that. Some people just don't threaten each other, and other people threaten everything about each other. Just the way it is. Rod. I started to do some calculations. Could we replace Eddie if we needed to? Would Pete leave with him? What would that mean for us? I'm not gonna lie, I started putting feelers out for other guitarists. Started planning out whether Billy could just take over Eddie's parts. I saw the writing on the wall. Turns out I wasn't ready exactly. I was reading exactly right, but I saw the writing on the wall. I saw the writing on the wall. I have a sense that this expression means that he sensed that there was something going on with Eddie and Billy, and that might jeopardize the band. So he sort of thought about a contingency plan or something if Eddie would leave the band. Warren, being proud that you predicted Eddie would leave the band is like saying, I predicted the sun would come out today, the day before a nuclear disaster. Yeah, man, great guess. But you didn't exactly notice the world was ending. Daisy, at the end of that day, when Billy was going home, he said, thank you for what you did with the song. And I said something like, yeah, of course. Then Billy stopped in place. He put his hand on my arm. He made a real point of it. He said, I'm serious. You made the song better. That meant a lot. That meant a lot. Maybe meant too much. Billy, I was starting to see, as Teddy had pushed me to, that sometimes you get to more complex places artistically when you have more people contributing. That's not always true, but with Daisy and me, it was true. I had to recognize that. With her, then it was true. Daisy. I really felt like I understood him, and I think he understood me. You know, things like that, that kind of connection with a person, it's sort of like playing with fire, because it feels good to be understood. You feel in sync with the person. You feel like you're on a level that no one else is. Karen, I think people that are too similar, they don't mix well. I used to think soulmates were two of the same. I used to think that I was supposed to look for somebody that was just like me. Don't believe in soulmates anymore, and I'm not looking for anything, but if I did believe in them, I believe your soulmate was somebody who had all the things you didn't, that needed all the things you had. No, not somebody who's suffering from the same stuff you are. Rod. The band was recording Chasing the Night. They had worked on it early in the day, and it got toward the afternoon, and Daisy wasn't needed anymore, so she went home. Daisy. I decided to have some people over to my cottage, some actress friends and a couple guys from the strip. We were just going to hang out by the pool a bit. Rod. I told Daisy to come back later because we were going to record her and Billy's vocals on it a few times that night. I should have done a better job setting boundaries of when everyone was working or not working. We didn't have set hours, really. It was just sort of free for all. But she was supposed to be at Haida at 9. Billy. Graham and I were working on some licks, laying down a few and going back over them, seeing what we liked better. Artie Snyder. Billy and Graham were fun to work with when it was just the two of them together. They had language of themselves sometimes, but I felt like I understood what they were going for. I did wonder back then, though. I didn't know how they could stand it. If I had to work with my brother, I'd lose my mind. Billy. I always felt really lucky that Graham was as good as he was. So talented, always had good ideas. He made it easy. People would often say, I don't know how you can work with your brother, but I never knew how to do it any other way. Daisy. I got later into the night and somehow Mick River shows up. He'd been staying at the Barmer too. He was in his 40s by then, I think. Married, however, many times, had like 5 kids, but partied like he was 19. He was topping the charts even then. Everybody still loved him. I'd partied with him a few times. He was always decent to me, but he was there was always a lot of groupie with Mike. He could really get a party out of control. Rod. Billy and Graham finished up and Graham left around 8 or so. So Billy and I decided to get some dinner, but we got back a few minutes after 9 and Daisy wasn't there. Daisy. Suddenly the whole place is packed. Mike's invited everyone he knows, basically. He's ordered bottles of liquor from the bar at the hotel, paid for it all. I lost track of time, forgot what I was doing. God only knows what I was on. I just remember champagne and cocaine. It was that kind of party. Those are the best parties. Champagne and coke and bikinis around the pool before we realized the drugs were killing us and the sex was coming for us too. Billy. We waited an hour before thinking anything of it. I mean, it's Daisy, and showing up on time is something she does by accident. Simone. I was in town to do American Bandstand. Daisy and I had plans to meet up. I got to Daisy's around maybe 10, and it was packed. Mike River was there, making out with 2 girls that couldn't have been even more than 16. Daisy laying out on the pool chair in a white bikini, like she's tanning, wearing a pair of sunglasses when it's pinch black out. Daisy. I don't remember anything that happened after Simone showed up. Rod. Teddy and Artie were going to go home. They weren't too worried about it, but I felt responsible for her. It didn't seem like her to ditch a session. Simone. I said, Daisy, I think it's time to call it a night. But she barely even heard me. She sat up really fast and looked at me and said, Have I shown you the Captain Tea Porter's people sent me? And I said, no. And she got up and ran into her cottage. It's full of people doing God knows what. They were barely paying attention to her. We walk into her bedroom, and there are 2 men making out on her bed. It was like her house wasn't even her own. She walks right past them, opens her closet, pulls out this dress, this kaftan. It's golden pink and teal and gray. It was so beautiful. I mean, your heart broke looking at it. And it was just so beautiful. Velvet and brocade and chiffon and silk. I said, that's stunning. And she takes off her bathing suit right there in front of everyone. And I said, what are you doing? And then she steps into it and twirls around and says, I feel like a sprite in it, like I'm a sea nymph. And then I don't know what to tell you. One minute she was in my sight, and the next minute she was out and past. She's way out past me, running back out to the pool and then stepping into the water one step at a time in that gorgeous kaftan. I could have killed her. That dress was art. By the time I got her, she was floating in her back in the pool alone. All these people watching her. I don't know who snapped the photo, but it is my favorite picture of her ever, I think. She just looks so much like herself. The way she's floating with her arms out to her sides, the dress floating with her. It's so dark out, but the pool is lit so that the pool is lit. So the dress and her body are bright. And then there is that look on her face. That's that way she's smiling right at the camera. Gets me every time. Rod. I called her at the moment about 10 times and she wasn't answering. I said to Billy, I'm going to head over there just to make sure she's okay. Billy. Daisy loved the work of recording an album. I knew she loved it. I'd seen it. The only way Daisy would pass an opportunity to record her song is if she was doped up beyond all recognition. It hurts to care about someone more than they care about themselves. I can tell that story from both sides. So Rod and I went over there. We got to her cottage at the Marmont in about 15 minutes. It wasn't far. And we started asking where Lola La Cava is. She's got an alias because, of course, she does. Finally, people says, check the pool. And when we get there, Daisy is in a pink dress, sitting on the edge of a diving board, surrounded by people, and she's soaking wet. Her hair was slicked back, and this dress was sticking to her. Rod walked up to her, and I didn't know what he was saying, but the moment she saw him, I saw this recognition in her eyes. She had forgotten where she was supposed to be until she saw him. It was exactly what we thought. Blotto. I mean, the only thing that was gonna come before her music was her dope. As she's talking to Rod, I see Rod point to me, and Daisy's eye follows his hand in my direction, and she looked sad to see me there, looking at her. There was a guy next to me, some guy I would have told you was an old geezer, except he was probably only 40. You could smell the whiskey in his glass, that smoky antiseptic scent. It's always been the smell for me. The smell of tequila, the smell of beer, even Coke. The smell of any of it. It takes me right back to those moments when the night is just starting. When you know you're about to get in trouble. It feels so good, the beginning. There was that voice again inside my head that was telling me I was never going to be able to stay sober for the rest of my life. What is the point of getting sober at all if I know I'll never kick it over? I kick it forever. I fell one day anyway. Shouldn't I pack it all in? Quit on myself? Quit on everybody? Spare Camilla and my girls the heartache later and admit who I really am? I looked over at Daisy. She was coming up off the diving board. She had a glass in her hand and she dropped it right there in the side of the pool. I watched her step onto the broken glass, not realizing it was under her feet. Rod. Daisy's feet started bleeding. Simone. There was blood mixing with the pool water on the concrete, and Daisy didn't even notice. She just kept walking, talking to somebody else. Daisy. I couldn't feel the cuts on my feet. I couldn't feel much of anything. I don't think. Simone. In that moment, I thought, she's going to be the girl bleeding in a beautiful dress until it kills her. I felt lost, sad, depressed, sick. I felt really hopeless but also like I didn't have the luxury of giving up. Like I was going to have to fight for her against her until I lost, because there was no winning. I didn't see how I could win the war. Billy, I couldn't stay. I couldn't stay because I looked at Daisy, wet and bleeding and out of it, and all near falling down. I did not think, thank God, I stopped using. I thought, she knows how to have fun. Rod, I was getting Daisy a towel to dry off when I saw Billy turn and leave. I've driven us there, so I wasn't quite sure where he was going. I tried to catch his eye, but he didn't see me until the last moment when he went round the corner. He just gave me a nod, and I understood it was thankful he'd come up with me in the first place. He knew how to take care of himself, and that's what he was doing. Billy. I told Rod I was leaving and made sure he was all right to take a cab home because I'd driven us over. It was really supportive. He understood why I needed to leave. When I got home, I got in bed right next to Camilla, so thankful to be there. But I couldn't sleep. I kept wondering what I'd be doing that very moment if I had taken the whiskey out of that man's hand, if I'd poured it down my throat. Would I be laughing and playing a song for everybody? Would I be skinny dipping with a whole bunch of strangers? Would I be puking my guts out watching somebody strap up and shoot heroin? Instead, I was laying in the darkest quiet, listening to my wife snore. The thing is, I'm a person who survives despite his instincts. My instincts said to turn toward the chaos, and my better brain sent me home to my woman. Daisy. I don't remember seeing Billy there. I don't remember seeing Rod. I don't know how I made it to my bed. Billy. I knew I wasn't going to fall asleep that night, so I got up out of bed and I wrote a song. Wrote. Billy comes into the studio the next day. Everybody else is there, ready to get to recording. I've even got Daisy there, relatively sober, drinking a coffee. Daisy, I felt bad. I did not mean to blow off the recording session, obviously. Why did I hurt myself like that? I can't explain it. I wish I could. I hated it about myself. And I kept doing it. And then I hated myself even more. And I hated myself more. There are no good answers about this. Rod. Billy comes in and he shows us a song he wrote. Impossible Woman. I said, you wrote this last night? He said, yeah. Billy. Daisy reads it and goes, cool, Graham. It was clear from the feeling in the room that none of us, not even Daisy and Billy, were going to acknowledge it was about Daisy. Billy. It's not about Daisy. It's about when you're sober, There are things you can't touch, things you can't have. Karen. After Graham and I heard Billy play it for the first time, I said to Graham, that song is... And Graham just goes, yep. Daisy, it was a great damn song. Warren, didn't care then. Barely care now. Karen, dancing barefoot in the snow, cold can't touch her, high or low. That's Daisy Jones. Billy, I decided to write a song about a woman that felt like sand through your fingers, like you could never really catch her, as an allegory for the things I couldn't have, couldn't do. Daisy, I said, this song is for us to sing. Is for us to sing? Billy said, no, I think you should give it a shot on your own. I wrote it for your register. I said, it seems more obvious that a man would be singing this about a woman. Billy said, it's more interesting if a woman is singing it. It gives it a haunting kind of quality. I said, all right, I'll take a stab at it. I took some time with it while everybody was lining out their parts. A few days later, I went in. I listened as everybody laid their tracks down, just trying to find a way into it. When it was my turn to get in there, I gave it my best. I tried to make it feel a little sad, maybe. Like I missed this woman, I was thinking. Maybe this woman is my mother. Maybe this woman is my lost sister. Maybe there is something I need from this woman, you know? I thought it's wistful. It's ethereal, that kind of thing. But I was doing take after take, and I could tell it wasn't working. And I kept looking to everybody thinking, somebody get me out of this mess. I'm flailing over here. And I didn't know what to do. And I started getting angry. Karen. Daisy has absolutely no formal training. She does not know the names of chords. She does not know various vocal techniques. If what Daisy does naturally doesn't work, then you have to take Daisy off the song. Daisy, I'm just hoping somebody saves me from myself. I say I want to take 5. Daisy suggests I go for a walk, clear my head. I walk around the block, but I'm only making it worse because I just keep thinking I can't do it. And of course I can't do it and all that. And I finally just give up. I get in my car, I drive away. I couldn't deal with it. So I left. Billy, I wrote the song for her. I mean, I wrote it for her to sing, so that made me mad. Her giving up like that. Obviously, I understood why she was frustrated. I mean, Daisy is shockingly talented. Like, it will shock you to be near it, her talent. But she didn't know how to control it. She couldn't call on it, you know. She just had to hope it would be there. But giving up wasn't cool, especially not after trying for, a couple of hours tops. That's the problem with people who don't have to work for things, that don't know how to work for things. Daisy. That night, somebody knocks on my door. I was with Simone making dinner. I opened the door and there's Billy June. Billy. I went there with the express purpose of getting her to sing the damn song. Did I want to go back to the Chateau Marmont? No, I did not. But that's what I had to do, so I did it. Daisy. He sits me down and Simone is in the kitchen making Harvey wallbangers. And she offers Billy one. Billy. And immediately Daisy blocks me and says, no, as if I was going to take the drink from Simone's hand. Daisy. I was embarrassed that Simone had offered it to him because I knew he already felt like I was I was a scummy booze hound, drug addict. And if Billy thought I was going to knock him off the wagon, I was going to do everything in my power to make sure that wasn't true. Billy. It surprised me. She had actually been listening to me. Daisy. Billy said to me, "You have to sing this song." I told him that I just didn't have the right voice for it. We talked back and forth for a while about what the song meant and whether there was a way into it for me. And finally, Billy just said that it was about me, that he had written it about me, that I am the impossible woman. She's blues dressed up like rock and roll untouchable. She'll never fold. That was me. And something kind of clicked in my head. Billy. I absolutely never told Daisy the song was about her. I wouldn't have done that because the song wasn't about her. Daisy. That felt like a breaking point into it. But I still said to him that I wasn't sure I was the right sound. Billy, I told her that the song needed a raw energy. I needed to feel like it crackled under the needle. I needed to feel it electric, like she was singing to save her life. Daisy, that's not my voice. Billy, I said, you need to go into the studio tomorrow and try again. Promise me that you will try again. And she agreed. Daisy. So I go in there the next morning and they had cleared out the place. The rest of the band wasn't there. It was just Billy, Teddy, Rod, and Artie at the board. I walked in and I knew this was going to be different. Rod. I went out to smoke a cigarette as Billy pulled Daisy into the booth and started giving her a pep talk. Billy. I knew how the song was supposed to sound, and I just kept trying to think of how to explain it to her. What I realized eventually was that Daisy is all about effortlessness, and this had to be a song that sounded like it hurt to sing, like it was taking all the effort in her body. I wanted Daisy to feel, after she was done singing it, that she had run a marathon. Daisy. There is a grit to my voice, but it's not a deep in your gut kind of grit. That's what Billy wanted. Billy. I said something like, sing it so hard, so loud that you can't control where your voice goes. Let your voice crack. Lose control of it. I gave her permission to sound bad. Think how you sing when you're singing to the radio at full volume, when you can't hear yourself. You're not afraid to really belt it out because you won't have to cringe when your voice breaks or you veer off key. Daisy needed a kind of freedom. That takes a crap load of confidence. And Daisy didn't actually have confidence. She was always good. Confidence is being okay, being bad, not being okay, being good. I said, if you sing this song in a way where you sound good the entire time, you've lost. Daisy. He said, this song isn't meant to be pretty. Don't sing it like it is. Rod. I came back in and Billy's got Daisy in the booth with the lights dimmed, a Vicks inhaler, a steaming mug of tea next to her, a pile of lozenges and some tissues, a huge pitcher of water. I don't know, you name it. It was in there with her. And then Daisy sat in a chair and Billy got right back up, jumped out of the control room, went into the booth with her again. He took the chair away, raised the mic. He said, you need to stand up and sing so hard your knees buckle. Daisy looked terrified. Daisy. It wanted me to shed every inhibition I had. Billy was saying that he wanted me to be willing to fail spectacularly in front of him, and Teddy and Artie. But I knew there was no moving past my own ego stone sober. I said, "Can we get some wine in here?" Billy said, "You don't need it." I said, "No, you don't need it." Billy, Rod goes right in there with a bottle of brandy. Rod, I'm not about to take away the easy stuff and have her ruin that much faster for the hard stuff. Daisy, I took a few swigs and looked at Billy through the window, and I said into the mic, "All right, you want it to sound a little ugly, right?" He nodded, and I said, "And no one's gonna judge me if I end up sounding like a screeching cat." And I'll never forget, Billy leaned into the button and said, "If you were a cat, your screech would bring every cat running to you." And I like that. The idea that just by being me, I was doing all right. So I opened up my mouth and I breathed in deep. And then I went for it. Billy. None of us told Daisy this, and I hesitate even saying it now, but her first 2 takes were god awful. I mean, wow. I was starting to regret what I had told her, but we just kept encouraging her. When someone is out on the ledge like that, especially when you're the one that coaxes them out there in the first place, you don't dare do anything to unbalance them. So I said, great. And then eventually after, I think the 3rd take, I said, go an octave deeper. Rod. It was either Daisy's 4th or 5th take. I think maybe 5th. And it was fucking magic. I mean, magic. I don't use that word lightly, but it felt like you were witnessing something that only happened few times in a lifetime. She just wailed. The record that you hear, that was Daisy's 5th take, start to finish. Billy. She started to assured in the first verse, not quite necessarily, but even, leveled. Impossible woman, let her hold you, let her ease your soul. And she let that simmer a little bit, grew in an intensity in this really subtle way through the next, sand through fingers, wild horse, but she's just a colt. And on colt is where you really felt her start to amp up. She went through another verse, and then the first time she sang the chorus, I could see it in her eyes. She was looking right at me, and you could feel it building in her chest. She'll have you running in the wrong direction, have you coming for the wrong obsessions. Oh, she gunning for your redemption, have you headed back to confession. And it was when she repeated confession, then she really just let it fly. Her voice breaks in the middle of the word. It cracks just a little. And then she goes through most of the verses again. When she gets to the chorus of a second time, she just unleashes her voice on it. It's a rocky and gritty and breathy, and there is so much emotion in it. It's like she's pleading. And then she closes in on the end. Walk away from the impossible. You'll never touch her, never ease your soul. Then she added a couplet, and it was great. It was perfect. She sang, you're one more impossible man. Running from her, clutching what you stole. She sang the entire song, with such heartbreaking lament. She made that song so much more than what I'd given her. Daisy. I opened my eyes after that take, and I barely remember doing it. I just remember thinking, I did it. I remember realizing I had even more power in me than I had originally thought, that I had more to give, more depth, more range than I even knew about myself. Rod, she was looking right at Billy the whole time she sang, and he was staring at her, nodding along with her. When she finished the song, Teddy started clapping, and the look on her face, the delight she felt, it was like watching a kid on Christmas. Truly. She was so proud of herself. She pulled the headphones off and threw them down and ran out of the booth, and I kid you not, ran directly into Billy's arms. He picked her up just off the floor and kind of swung her back and forth for a moment. And I could have sworn to you he smelled her hair before he put her back down. Daisy. We were all in the studio recording one afternoon when Camilla came in with the girls. I had said to Camilla, why don't you bring everybody here more often? Because Camilla would stop by occasionally, but it was always for a minute to drop off something to Billy. She never came and hung out, but we had so many people hanging out back then. Of course, the time she comes in to hang out for a little while, one of the twins starts crying for what seems like no reason, wouldn't stop. I don't remember if it was Susanna or Maria, but Billy took her and held her and tried to shush her, and she would not calm down. Karen took her. It didn't matter what we all did. Camilla ended up taking both of the tweens outside. Camilla. Babies and rock and rolls don't really go hand in hand. Karen. I went for a walk with Camilla and the girls one day at the studio. I said, how are things going? And she just opened up, talking like the words were stumbling out of her. The twins weren't sleeping, and Julia was going through a jealous period, and Billy was never home. And then she stopped in place as she was pushing the girls along with the stroller, and she said, why am I complaining? I love my life. Camilla. What is it they say? The days are long, but the years are short. Whoever said that was a mom with 3 kids under the age of 3, tired and cranky on an hourly basis, bursting with joy when you put your head on the pillow. Raising kids is a hard work. It was work I was happy to do, though. Everybody is good at something. I was good at motherhood. Karen. Camilla had said to me that day something like, I'm living the life I want to live. And there was an ease about her as she said it. Graham. While Camilla and the twins were outside, Billy set Julia up in the control booth. She was there hanging out with Artie and Teddy and everybody while we all laid something down. She had just a fun time in there. She was so cute with the cans in her ears and her tiny little dress. Her hair was still blonde then. Her legs were so short. They didn't even bend at the knee when she sat, just stuck straight out. Karen. I decided to tell Camilla about Graham. I needed her help figuring out what to do. I never told him this, but I saw a letter from his mom on his nightstand one morning, and I hadn't meant to pry, but it was right there, and a few lines stood out. His mom was telling him that if he really loved this girl he was with, then he should make it official. And that freaked me out. Graham. I wanted a family. Not right then, but sure, I wanted what my brother had. Karen, I said to Camilla, what do you think if I was sleeping with Graham? She took off her sunglasses and looked me right in the eye. She said, if you were sleeping with Graham? I said, yeah, if. Camilla, I've been in love with her since God only knows how long. Karen, we kept talking in hypotheticals. Camilla said I would have to be taking into account that the fact that Graham had feelings for me for quite a while, which I knew, but I didn't know, I guess. Camilla, I told her that if she was sleeping with Graham and wasn't feeling about him the way I knew he felt about her, well, I think I told her to stop. Karen, I believe she said, don't hurt Graham or I'll kill you. I said, aren't you worried about Graham hurting me? And she said, if Graham broke your heart, I'd kill him too. You know that. But we both know Graham's not going to break your heart. We both know which way this is going to go. I got a little defensive, but Camilla never really backed down from too much. She was very good at knowing what everybody else should do, and she had no problem telling you. It was really annoying how right she always was. And she would tell you, I told you so. You'd do something she told you not to do, and it wouldn't work. It wouldn't work out, and you'd find yourself bristling out around her and just waiting for that I told you so to come. And she always landed right when your defenses were down. Camilla, if you come to me, ask me for advice, and then you don't take my advice, and it blows up in your face exactly like I told you it would, what do you expect me to say? Karen, I told her, Graham's an adult. He can handle whatever he gets himself into. It's not my job to make his decisions. Camilla said, yes, it is. And I said, no, it's not. And Camilla, I told her, yes, it is. Karen, and we just kept on going like that. And we just kept going on like that until I gave up. Daisy, we were recording and Julia was in the booth. They had all come to visit Billy that day, and there was something wrong with my mic, so I was sitting it out while everyone tried to fix it. I went into the control booth and asked Julia if she wanted to get a cookie. She took her headphones off her head and said, does my dad say it's okay? It was so sweet. Teddy leaned on the talkback button and said, Julia would like to know if she may have a cookie. Billy leaned in and said, yes, she may. And then he added, just make sure it's a normal one. I took Julia by the hand and we went to the kitchen and we split a peanut butter cookie. She told me she liked pineapples. I remember that because I love pineapples, and I told her that. And she got really excited that we had that in common. I told her we should split a pineapple sometime. And then Karen came into the kitchen and Camilla was calling out for Julia, and I brought her to her. Julia waved goodbye to me and Camilla thanked me for watching her. Camilla, the whole way home, Julia was saying, can Daisy Jones be my best friend? Daisy, as soon as they left, Eddie called me and Karen back into the booth. And somebody, I don't remember who, said I was good with kids. And then Eddie said, I bet you make a great aunt. You don't think to tell someone they will be a good aunt if you think they will be a good mom. But I knew as well as anybody I wouldn't be a good mom. I had no place thinking of being anybody's mom. I wrote, a hope like you soon after. Billy. When Daisy showed me A Hope Like You, I thought this could work as a piano ballad. It was such a sad love song about wanting somebody you can't have and knowing you're going to want them anyway. I said, "How do you hear it?" She sang a tiny little bit of it, and I heard it. I heard what it should be. Daisy. Billy said, "This is your song. It should be just you and the piano on the track. That's it." Karen, that was a great song to record. I was really proud of it. Just Daisy singing and me on the keys. That's it. Just two bitches playing rock and roll. Billy. Daisy and I wrote a lot of good stuff after that. We'd be working in the lounge at the studio or back at Teddy's pool house if we needed some peace and quiet. I would come in with something I was working on, and Daisy would help me refine it, or vice versa. We'd work on one of Daisy's ideas. Right. It seems like there was a period of time where Daisy and Billy were coming in with new stuff every day. Graham, it's really exciting when you're constantly creating. You'd be working on tracks for Midnights or adding some layers to Impossible Women. And then Daisy and Billy would come in with a new one we were all excited about. Karen, it felt like it felt a little manic, that period of time. So many people in the studio, so many songs coming in and out, rocking, recording and recording and recording, playing things 1,000 times, always trying to improve upon the last one. There was so much to do, so much to keep us busy. But we were all coming into the studio in the morning, still hungover from the night before. It was like zombies at 10 a.m. until the coffee and the Coke kicked in. Road. The early tracks were sounding great. Artist Night, when the songs started coming together, we were realizing we had something really special in our hands. Billy and Teddy would always stay late and listen to what we had, listen to it over and over again. There was energy to the control booth those nights. Super quiet in the rest of the studio, real dark outside, just the three of us listening to rock getting made. I was going through a divorce back then, so I was happy to stay as late as they wanted. We'd been up in the studio at 3 a.m. sometimes. Me and Teddy slept there if he wanted to. Billy always went home, even if it was just for 2 hours until he came back. Rod, it was really starting to sound out of this world. I wanted to make sure Runner was prepared to back these guys up with some real money. This album deserved to make a big splash. I was lobbying Teddy for a huge number at the first pressing. I wanted a clear hit single. I wanted rock and pop airplay. I wanted a massive tour lined up. I was getting very ambitious. I wanted big momentum out of the gate. Everybody knew Daisy and Billy on tour promoting this album was going to sell out venues and it was going to sell records. You could feel it. And Teddy made sure everybody was on board. Even at Runner Records, you could feel the excitement. Daisy. Billy and I did about 4 songs in a mad rush of writing over about a week or two. I mean, we actually did 7 songs, but only 4 of them made it into the album. Rod. They turned in Please, Young Stars, Turn It Off, and This Could Get Ugly, all within about a week. Billy. The concept for the album took shape naturally. Me and Daisy could see that we were writing about the push and pull between the lure of temptation and staying on the right path. It was about drugs and sex and love and denial and a whole mess of stuff. That's where Turn It Off came from. The two of us writing about how every time you think you've got something licked, It keeps rearing its head. Daisy. Turn It Off was me and Billy at the pool house. Him on the guitar, me pitching the line. I keep trying to turn it off, but baby, you keep turning me on. And then it all just snowballed from there. I'd say a line, he'd say a line. We'd be scribbling each other's stuff out, writing over it. All just trying to get to the best version of the song. Billy. Daisy and I got to the point where we could really tinker with something for a while. We had enough faith to keep working on something, even if it didn't come easy. Young Stars ended up developing like that. Daisy. We worked on Young Stars in fits and starts. We'd have it and then lose it and pick it up days later. I think it was Billy who suggested the line, we only look like young stars because you can't see old scars. That worked for me. We finally built around that. Billy. We were using a lot of words that made you think of physical pain, ache and knots and break and punch and all that. It started to fit in well with the rest of the album. How it hurts to be fighting your own instincts. Daisy. I'll tell you the truth, just to watch. I'll tell you the truth, just to watch you blush, but you can't handle the hit, so I'll hold the punch. That song ended up cutting so close to the heart in lots of ways. Maybe too close. I believe you can break me, but I am saved for the one who saved me. Billy. I mean, it's hard to say what a song is about something. Sometimes even you don't know why you wrote that line or how it came into your head or even what it means. Daisy. The songs that we were writing together, I started feeling like a lot of what Billy was writing about was how he was actually feeling. It seems clear to me that there were things unsaid that were being said in our work together. Billy. There are songs, you pull them out of wherever you can. You change the meanings to fit the moment sometimes. Some songs came more from my heart than others, I suppose. Daisy. It's so strange how someone's silence, someone's insistence that something isn't happening can be so suffocating, but it can be. And suffocating is exactly the word too. You feel like you can't breathe. Karen. I think Daisy showed me Please before she showed it to anyone else. And I thought it was a cool song. I said, what's Billy think? And she said, I haven't shown him yet. I wanted to show you first. I thought that was weird. Billy. Daisy handed me the song, and I could tell she was feeling sort of nervous about it, but I immediately liked it. I added a few lines myself, removed a few. Daisy. It's very vulnerable being an artist, telling the truth like that, like we were doing now. When you're living your life, you're so inside your head, you're swirling around in your own pain, and that's hard to see how obvious it is to people around you. These songs I was writing felt coded and secret, but I suspect they weren't coded and secret at all. Billy. This could get ugly. That was one. We had the song before we had the lyrics done. Graham and I had come up with a guitar riff we liked, and that song spiraled out of that. I actually went to Daisy and said, got anything for this? Daisy, I had this idea in my head of ugly being a good thing. I wanted to write a song about feeling like you knew you had somebody's number, even if they didn't know it. Billy. Daisy and I met up at Teddy's place one morning and I played it for her again and she threw some stuff out. She was talking about some guy she was seeing, don't remember who. And she had a few lines that really spoke to me. I really liked. Write a list of things you'll regret. I'll be on top smoking a cigarette. I love that line. I said to her, "What's this guy putting you through to write a song like this?" Daisy, even then, I wasn't sure if Billy and I were having the same conversation. Billy, she was great at wordplay. She was great at flipping the meaning of things, of undercutting sentiment. I loved that about what she was doing. And I told her that. Daisy, the harder I worked as a songwriter, the longer I worked at it, the better I got. Not in any linear way, really, more like zigzags, but I was getting better, getting really good. And I knew that. I knew that when I showed the song to him, but knowing you're good, can only take you so far. At some point, you need someone else to see it too. Appreciation from people you admire changes how you see yourself. And Biddy saw me the way I wanted to be seen. There's nothing more powerful than that. I really believe that. Everybody wants somebody to hold up the right mirror. Billy, this could get ugly was her idea, her execution, and it was excellent. She had written something that felt like I could have written it, except I knew I couldn't have. I wouldn't have come up with something like that, which I which is what we all want from art, wasn't it? When someone pins down something that feels like it lives inside us, takes a piece of your heart out and show a piece of your heart out and shows it to you. It's like they're introducing you to a part of yourself. And that's what Daisy did with that song, at least for me. I could do nothing but praise her for it. I didn't change a single word. Eddie, when they came into the studio with This Could Get Ugly, I thought, great, another song that has got no room for me to try my own thing on. I didn't like who this was all turning me into. I'm not a bitter person. In almost every other situation in my life, I'm not this guy, you know what I'm saying. I'm not this guy, you know what I'm saying. But I was getting so sick of it. Going into work every day feeling like a second-class citizen. That stuff messes with you. I don't care who you are, it messes with you. I said to Pete, second-class citizen, first-class resort. Karen, it definitely became a club that we weren't in. Daisy and Billy, even the word down from Runner Records was keep Daisy and Billy happy, keep Daisy and Billy stable. Warren, Daisy was always keeping out on stuff she didn't want to do. She was always coming in sourced, but everybody was acting like she was the goose that laid the golden egg. Daisy, I honestly thought I was balancing all of it fine. I wasn't, but I really thought I was. Karen, I had thought she had the pills under control, and I realized at some point while we were recording that album that she just learned to hide it better. Rod, Billy and Daisy would seem like they were getting along like house on fire, and then Daisy would be late for something, or she'd be outside with somebody and nobody could find her, and Billy would get pissed. Eddie, Daisy and Billy would be outside on the sidewalk thinking we can't hear them. They'd be screaming at each other about something or other. Karen, Billy got very angry when Daisy slacked off. Billy, I don't think Daisy and I fought very much back then. Maybe normal stuff, just as much as I'd fight with Graham or Warren. Daisy, Billy thought he knew better than me what I should be doing. And he wasn't necessarily wrong, but I still wasn't about to have anybody telling me my business. I was caught in a whirl of my own ego. I had this validation I'd been looking for so much for such a long time. But on the other hand, I was so unsatisfied in so many ways. Back then, I had an oversized sense of self-importance and absolutely no self-worth. It didn't matter how gorgeous I was, how great my voice was, or what magazine I was on the cover of. I mean, there were a lot of teenage girls that wanted to grow up and be me in the late 70s. I was keenly aware of that. But the only reason people thought I had everything is because I had all the things you can see. I had none of the things you can't. And a lot of good dope can make it so you can't tell whether you're happy or not. It can make you think having people around is the same thing as having friends. And you getting high wasn't a long-term solution. But God, it's so easy. It's just so easy. But of course, it's not easy at all either, because 1 minute you're just trying to nurse a wound, and the next you're desperately trying to hide the fact that you're now a jury-rigged, tapped up, shortcutted mess of a person, and the wound you were nursing has become an abscess. But I was skinny and pretty, so who cared, right? Rod. Titty was always trying to keep Billy and Daisy calm. Billy and Daisy together was like tending a little fire. Good if controlled. Just keep the kerosene away from it and we all be fine. Eddie, it takes a lot of work. Keeping Billy sober, keeping Daisy level. I doubt Teddy Price would have been tripping over himself to make sure I didn't step in a bar. Graham. We started calling them the chosen ones. I don't know if they even knew that, but I mean, that's what they were. Right, and that's the end of part 1. This is it for today. It's been a super long session. Yeah, it's about 2 hours, more than 2 hours, 2 hours and a half, maybe. Yeah. So I'm not gonna keep you longer for today. We'll discuss this in the workshop actually tomorrow, and we'll do the quick recap on Monday about this chapter, or about this part of the chapter. And I hope that you enjoyed this live reading, this long session again. And make sure you subscribe to the book club to attend the workshop session tomorrow and the next one. Also remember that you can purchase the 3-part live workshop of White Teeth on my website store. Just click on the link below this video. I wish you a beautiful end of the day, and I will see you on Monday for session 9, and we will read part 2 of this chapter, Aurora. We will read page 205 to 261. So it's going to be again a long session, a good chunk for Monday. So be prepared again. Yay! Bye bye, Kitty. Thank you for staying today for the whole session. And see you tomorrow. Bye bye. Bye, guys.